Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlights, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the top headlines. Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Sharaa is set to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. This is al-Sharaa's first visit to Russia since the ouster of long-time Russian ally Bashar al-Assad in December last year. The US Defense Secretary says he expects more NATO countries to buy American arms for Ukraine. This as the alliance seeks to bolster Kyiv and its own borders to counter Russia. China says a trade war has no winners after US President Donald Trump threatens to block cooking oil imports from the country. Earlier, Beijing pulled back from buying US soybeans in what Trump called an economically hostile act. India's top court permits the use of less polluting firecrackers in New Delhi during the Diwali festival, easing a blanket ban even as the capital battles unhealthy winter air pollution. And Sri Lanka's most wanted woman, accused of taking part in the brazen courtroom murder of a suspected drug dealer, is arrested in Nepal. Officials say proceedings for her extradition are underway. We begin with the latest from Gaza. As calls intensify for Hamas to disarm itself, the group released a disturbing video showing what appears to be a public execution. In the undated clip, armed fighters are seen standing behind a group of blindfolded, kneeling men as a crowd of onlookers gathers around them. The footage ends with gunfire and claims that the executed men were collaborators of Israel and outlaws executed in Gaza City. The clip, which quickly circulated online, is being widely condemned. The timing of the release is significant. It comes just days after Israel began a partial troop withdrawal from the enclave, part of the broader peace plan brokered by US President Donald Trump. Under this agreement, Hamas released all living hostages it had held since the deadly October 7th attack of 2 years ago. In return, Israel freed nearly 2,000 Palestinians from its prisons. Israel has confirmed receiving the remains of 8 hostages held by Hamas. Earlier today, Israeli authorities said the remains of an individual returned by Hamas did not match any known hostage, adding to the uncertainty and controversy surrounding this deal. But even as the exchange process moves ahead, though with repeated stumbles, questions linger over whether Hamas will even agree to lay down its arms in the future. And that, President Donald Trump says, is a non-negotiable. In remarks at the White House, Trump struck a tough tone on the future role of Hamas in Gaza.
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
Donald Trump claims the US has communicated clearly to Hamas that they must disarm, and the group had agreed to lay down its arms during peace negotiations.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes, you say
because
quickly.
Everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
Earlier, the State Department also echoed the same message, that Hamas must be disarmed to eliminate them as a threat. Meanwhile, Israel has said it will closely monitor Hamas's actions on the ground, warning that any sign of rearmament will be met with decisive force.
First, I want to say that Hamas today is not the Hamas of 2 years ago. Hamas has been defeated everywhere we fought them. We are in a completely different place now. The IDF is deployed deep inside the Gaza Strip. The yellow line you saw, which we presented earlier, is a line deep within Gaza territory. We are prepared to defend the citizens of the State of Israel everywhere and from anywhere.
Meanwhile, aid trucks bound for Gaza were seen moving out of Egypt's Rafah crossing earlier on Wednesday, with several others lined up along the border. Israel's public broadcaster reported that the country has agreed to allow the Rafah crossing to open and expand humanitarian aid entry into Gaza during the ongoing phase of this ceasefire. A rare moment of calm in Gaza is hanging by a thread. The central question now is whether Hamas will actually follow through. For millions in Gaza, still grappling with reconstruction, loss and years of war, the stakes couldn't be higher. We'll keep track of all of the updates. Shifting focus now to the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, where tensions continue to simmer. Fresh clashes broke out between the two sides at dawn on Wednesday. Afghan officials say at least 15 civilians have been killed and dozens more wounded in the latest fighting. Meanwhile, Pakistan's military said around 20 Taliban fighters were killed in these clashes. They added that around 30 Taliban and affiliated fighters were also suspected to have been killed in separate overnight clashes on the northwest border.
It was around 4 a.m. when the fighting began. Most of the wounded are children, and 90% of the casualties are civilians, including women and children. We have, thank God, prepared the ambulances, and all the injured, whether women or children, are treated here first and then transferred to Kandahar city.
The latest clashes have erupted in the southern Afghan district of Spin Buldak. The Taliban government has accused Pakistani forces of launching fresh attacks with light and heavy weapons within the region. The statement did not mention any Taliban casualties, but said calm had returned to the area after Pakistani soldiers were killed and posts and weapons were seized. Clashes also occurred along the border in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on Tuesday. Pakistan claims a key commander of the band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the TTP, was killed in the operation. However, no such report has been confirmed by the Taliban. Meanwhile, a deputy police spokesperson in Afghanistan's Kosht province also confirmed clashes in the region, but declined to share further details. This was the second major confrontation between the two sides this week. Violence between the two neighbours flared since explosions in Afghanistan last week, including 2 in Kabul. The Taliban says the explosions were a result of airstrikes carried out by Pakistan. Afghanistan also says it launched an operation in at least 5 provinces along its border with Pakistan in retaliation to these strikes in Kabul. Following this, Islamabad vowed a strong response of its own on Sunday. The standoff intensified with border clashes and heavy casualties were reported on both sides. Pakistan claims to have killed over 200 Taliban and affiliated fighters in strikes. Afghan Taliban forces claimed to have killed 58 Pakistani soldiers, while Pakistan claimed its losses stood at 23. Islamabad accuses Afghanistan of harbouring the Pakistan Tehrik-e-Taliban, or the TTP, a group accused of killing hundreds of Pakistani soldiers since 2021. Kabul, however, has repeatedly denied Islamabad's claims. Amid the continued clashes, residents in border areas have been forced to flee their homes.
This fighting has been going on since early morning, and the people who live close to the border are leaving the area. These people are coming from Kil Luqman and Bagsha. They are worried. Both countries are requested to stop this war. People are in a very difficult situation. Shells are falling in homes.
Despite appeals from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to de-escalate tensions, the clashes have continued. Earlier, US President Donald Trump says he was willing to mediate between Pakistan and Afghanistan, calling himself an expert at resolving wars and establishing peace. Meanwhile, China urged both sides to exercise restraint and ensure the safety of Chinese personnel, projects and institutions in the region. Beijing stated that both nations were its friends and neighbours and added that peaceful coexistence and cooperation are in their long-term interests. The latest border exchange once again underscores the fragile nature of Pakistan-Afghanistan ties, where security concerns, militancy and mistrust continue to fuel the instability. Both governments are yet to issue an official statement on Wednesday's confrontation, but the situation along the frontier remains tense. Shifting focus to Bangladesh, the country's main opposition party, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP, has raised concerns over the presence of members of the Islamist party Jamaat-e-Islami within the country's election commission and other government departments. Former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's party says it doubts the neutrality of the interim government, headed by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, the same government responsible for organising the general elections promised for February of 2026. BNP leaders say Jamaat-linked officials could compromise the fairness of the upcoming polls and have called for urgent corrective measures in both the election commission and the administration.
If Jamaat-linked officials remain on election duty, they may try to rig votes or influence the process.
Local media reports say the Election Commission plans to finalise its panel of polling officials by October the 30th. The BNP claims many of these officials have known links to Jamaat-e-Islami, the party which calls for governance based on a radical interpretation of Islam. Bangladesh's Jamaat-e-Islami is a conservative Islamist political party. It emerged in 1979 from its Pakistan-based parent organisation. The party has long been accused of collaborating with Pakistani forces during Bangladesh's 1971 Liberation War. In 2013, it was banned from contesting elections by the Sheikh Hasina government. But in August of 2024, the Yunus-led interim government reversed that ban. Since then, the group has held massive rallies in Dhaka to reassert its political influence and demand tougher action against Hasina's Awami League. It has now partnered with the student-led National Citizen Party to further consolidate its footprint under the interim setup. At the heart of the current political tensions is the July Charter, a 28-page draft proposal aimed at restructuring Bangladesh's governance. It calls for a 2-term limit for prime ministers, expanded presidential powers, and recognition of Bangladesh as a multi-ethnic, multi-religious state. While most parties, including the BNP, agree on the Charter's content, they are split over when to hold the referendum. Jamaat wants the referendum in November before elections. The BNP says it should happen alongside the February polls to avoid delays and ensure a smooth transition. For now, the interim leader, Muhammad Yunus, says he's focused on fixing a broken system and restoring democracy. But with the BNP flagging Islamist infiltration and party split over election timing, Bangladesh's road to February 2026 looks anything but stable. As political parties jostle for influence and old alliances rearrange themselves, questions about transparency, timing and trust continue to hang over Bangladesh's most crucial election in decades. And finally, on to our last story. In India, the Diwali shopping surge has hit a glitch as the new Apple iPhone 17 series has run out of stock in several online stores. Offline retailers across Indian cities are witnessing iPhone 17 shortages amid soaring demand. This has sparked frustration among sellers who blame the company's import strategy for the distribution. Retailers say they are turning away several customers daily due to this shortage and are calling it a missed sales opportunity during the festive season. So, what's behind these shortages? Despite India setting new records for iPhone exports, the new 17 series are still primarily imported. This reliance on imports has created limited stock availability in offline retail stores across the country. Second, there is a distribution problem. Retailers claim that stock allocation has been uneven, with company-owned stores and e-commerce platforms receiving priority. This year, Apple has allocated less inventory to third-party retailers, leaving them scrambling to meet demand. Then there is the high festive demand. The iPhone 17 is a hot item for the Diwali season in India. Analysts predict that total iPhone shipments in the third quarter could exceed 5 million units, with the iPhone 17 series contributing significantly to this increase. Apple launched the iPhone 17 series globally in September, with CEO Tim Cook unveiling the new models. Stores across India witnessed unprecedented queues. Customers camped overnight, waiting for hours, and even scuffling for early access. But this shortage pattern in India mirrors a global crunch. Markets in the US, Europe, and other parts of Asia are also reportedly struggling to get high-end models. However, experts note that made in India units may soon ease the pressure. The iPhone 17 Pro models produced locally are expected to roll out soon, which could relieve the supply crunch across retail networks. But for this festive season, the iPhone 17 might be testing the patience of customers and retailers. That's all we have on the show today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.